guys, and welcome to an ARC review. And actually, because I'm filming this the day after the book came out, I have my hardcover because this is my highest rated book so far this year. This is my own, well, one of 2 5-stars that I've read so far this year. The first 5-star, and I think my favorite of the 2 of them, The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. Now, you might remember Grady Hendrix as the author of such bangers as Horror Store, and last year he got some notoriety for the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I always mess up the title. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This is his newest book. It just came out yesterday, so I implore you to go grab a copy and read it. I liked this one better than any of the other Grady Hendrix that I have read so far. This is my favorite of his. It is also my favorite book I've read so far this year. I'm not going to give spoilers for the plot, but if you want to go into this knowing nothing about it, that's a perfectly valid way of doing it. The title tells you pretty much all that you need to know about the plot that there is there, but if you haven't read it, you can still stick around and listen to this because I'm not going to talk about the later plot in this book. I'm mostly just going to talk about the setup and why I really enjoyed it. As the title would suggest, this is a book about final girls, and final girls, as you know, are the last survivor of horror movies, usually, or books, but horror movies, usually. Everybody else is dead, and there is one girl left alive, the final girl. In this world, all of our favorite 80s slasher movies were based on real events. So, literally Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, all of those actually happened. And all of the final girls from those, the real final girls, not the movie final girls, the real final girls from those are in a support group in LA where they come to talk about their problems and try to, give support to each other because it is traumatizing to go through an experience where everybody around you dies. All of those girls have reacted to their trauma in different ways. Some of them have gone insane. Others have reasonable trauma, but that has led to an unhealthy degree of paranoia, perhaps. Some have gone to drugs or alcohol, whatever it may be. None of them are really in a great place, but they are all, trying to get through this, and they all come together and do like a group therapy type thing. Until one of them is found dead. Our protagonist thinks that somebody is coming to finish them all off because multiples of them have been attacked multiple times by different people, copycats or whatever have you, and the plot goes from there, where she is trying to protect herself but also to figure out what is going on. Like, why are people killing other people? I really enjoyed the aspect of this, that this was based off of real final girls, if that makes it real final girls, but based off of the final girls from the movies that we know, because there are all of those little Easter eggs that you get to pick up where you're like, oh, you're the final girl from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and this is what happened to her afterwards. Now they're all in their 40s and old and sort of still dealing with that, and their life never really went in the way that they might have gone if they had not had these sorts of experiences. This, compared to the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, I feel like has a much better pacing to it. This is much more action-packed. It moves pretty quickly. There's more action spread throughout the book, and it isn't all, like, towards the end. And I also feel like with Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, I felt like so much of that, because it was inside of the protagonist's head, and was a lot of gaslighting by her husband. There's less gaslighting in this one, so I wasn't as uncomfortable with it. Is this necessarily scary? Maybe not. It probably falls closer to a thriller than horror, or even really a mystery at that. But there's some violence, and it's a slasher, which is a horror genre, so it is there. It is, a slasher within the slasher genre while commenting on other slashers. And it even sort of touches on the slashers that have elements of supernatural stuff going on. It talks on that and sort of makes them make sense in the world as well, whether it be that they are supernatural or maybe not. You don't know, but it's part of the book itself. There's a discussion in here about what a real final girl is, because one of the characters in here didn't necessarily save herself. She was saved by someone else, and then most of the other girls saved themselves, either by killing their assailant, or by getting away somehow, but usually by killing their assailant. And the protagonist of this was rescued by a police officer in her town. So there's sort of this discussion of, like, is she a real final girl if that happened? The other part is, because her story is not as well known as the other stories, even though it does have a film franchise based off of it as well, there's a little bit of resentment, and the interpersonal play between all of the different girls and sort of how they each have insecurities and pitfalls that make their dynamic as a group interesting. Watching them try to come together or fall apart is one of the more interesting aspects of this book, on top of the whole trying to figure out who's trying to kill them, if somebody's trying to kill them, or what have you. I do want to also say that I saw Riley Sagar tweet something yesterday because this book came out, because a couple years ago he had a book called Final Girls that came out. The plots of those two books are completely different. So if you've read Final Girls, this is a different plot. It's just a different take on the final girl getting hunted type story. Like, that base story, sure, maybe that is kind of there, but the core elements and the plot itself is completely different from Final Girls. And he wasn't even the first one to write a Final Girls story, because I'm pretty sure Stephen Graham Jones wrote The Last Final Girl in, like, 2012 or something. So, a bit uncomfortable. I still like this one. I actually like this one better. It's fun, which is, like, a big part of those slasher movies. Like, while they are very gory and you know, horror, they're fun, and this captures that atmosphere, and I thought that was really good. It's a really great example of a slasher while commenting on these other slashers. It might be July, and it's definitely not horror spooky time yet. If you know, want to read Beach Reads now, this might not be your best pick, but at least keep it in mind when we're going into, you know, the fall, and lots of folks are reading horror at that time. Highly recommend this one. 5 stars from me. I even think that Gretchen could read this if she really wanted to. I think that it's not scary enough. It's not really that scary that it would cause problems for her, and I would find it interesting to hear her thoughts on this. It's definitely not something that she would go to on her own, but it might be something that I think that she could at least read and not be spooked and terrified at night about. That's all for me today. We are going to have a tag on Friday for you guys. We've done the mini yearbook freakout tag, which I'm sure everybody is tired of seeing at this point because everyone and their mom has made one, but we also made one, and that's coming out on Friday, so keep your eyes out for that. Gretchen just did her Q2 wrap up on Monday. If you want to go watch that video, I recommend it because she's read like 70 books, which is an insane number of books. My Q2 wrap up was supposed to come out last week and it didn't, so I'm gonna post it for next week. I did record it, so it might be a little bit wonky of me talking about things in the future and the past, and I'm just gonna post it next week. And then after that, I have another ARC review for the last week of the month. And I think that's July sorted. I'll talk to you guys again soon.